The Pac-12 is making moves. You think of it as a dead, defunct conference. It's not. It is in the colloquial sense, but in the logistical, legal sense, no, very much not the case. So the Pac-12 is reportedly going to move on from Commissioner George Kliavkoff, his associate number 2, right-hand man, it's a woman, but you understand the expression, is reportedly the top target to replace him as commissioner. That would be a strange move for a league that is supposedly going to just give up. Yeah, they're not going to give up. This has been clear for a while. They are going to utilize the NCAA's 2-year grace period to rebuild to 8 or more teams, and they are going to make realignment moves. This is going to happen. This is going to take place. The timeline, probably within the next year, would be my guess, because the end of 2026, when this new playoff deal kicks in for a 6-year stretch, and whether or not they're, considered a Power 5 conference, which is what they would like to be, and I'll get to that more in just a second. 2026 is when the Mountain West media deal ends. It's when their temporary affiliation for non-revenue sports with the West Coast Conference ends, and it's when the new college football playoff deal begins. The Pac-12 is moving George Kliavkoff out of the way. That's what the reporting is. Those are the indications. Now, another fascinating component here is that Washington State President Kurt Schultz has been positioning the Pac-12, whatever you want to call them, it's still technically the Pac-12, to make some sort of move. Whether that's a reverse merger with the Mountain West, in which that league dissolves and plays under the Pac-12 banner, or you go on the aggressive, which is what I've advocated for, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You're either the hunter or the hunted, and they've been the hunted so far through no fault of their own. They should go get the best of the Mountain West, the best of the American, form the premier Group of 5 conference in all of college football. Now, Kurt Schultz, Washington State president, who has been putting the college football playoff committee in a little bit of a bind because he's putting his foot down and saying, nope, I basically have a veto vote here because you want to go to a 5+7 format for 2024, and I'm going to hold that up until you give us assurances. And guess what? I think he's doing the right thing because he is representing the interests of the Pac-12, which is just Oregon State and Washington State. And so far, he seems to be moving in a direction in which he's getting the things that those two schools want and need. So for the next 2 years, they are guaranteed to get a Power 5 share of the college football playoff revenue. That would be $5 to $6 million a year. They want guarantees that will continue under the new deal as well, which is worth more money than the old deal. And if he's able to get that concession, then he'll probably come back and say, all right, I'll give you 5+7 for 2024. And so what's also fascinating here is his opposition or his anti-vote towards the 5+7 model has really just been in relation to him trying to flex his muscle and get the Beavs and Cougs the best deal possible and the best financial situation possible. And he wants the conference to continue to be treated as a Power 5 league. Now, by the conference, I presume he only means Oregon State and Washington State, because his argument is we've been at the Power 5 level for this long. Just because musical chairs was being played and we weren't able to find seats doesn't mean we weren't capable of playing at that level, which I agree with, by the way. If the rest of the college football world and the power players of the B see it in the same light, then guess what? He will have played his hand pretty brilliantly. He then spoke positively about the 5+7 model, saying that he believes it is beneficial for them to move to that model one day anyway. That's not necessarily true if you're rebuilding the Pac-12, but it certainly can be, because if you've got 7 at-large spots available instead of 6, I suspect that one of those spots is going to go to the Big Ten or the SEC. They are poised with the depth of teams and coaches and investment that those programs have got. They're poised to dominate this thing. And the ACC and the Big 12 will just be fighting to be multi-bid leagues. But I suspect that every year, more often than not, the ACC and the Big 12 are going to get as many teams into the playoff each as the Group of 5, which is 1. I think the Big 12 is a 1-bid league this year. The ACC, most likely, not quite as likely, but most likely, a 1-bid league in 2024. So when you look at a 5+7 model, the reason that Kirk Schultz suddenly speaking in a positive light about it makes me want to triple down on my take that the Pac-12 is going to be rebuilt one day is he's looking at that 5, which is carved out for a group of 5 team. If you have the best group of 5 conference, which is what the Pac-12 can be, then your conference champion is going to have an excellent chance to get into the league every year. Because the Mountain West would then be weakened or dissolved at that point in time. The American Conference would take a significant blow. I don't think they would take enough teams out of it to where the American would completely break apart and they would get some exit fees and have money to try to, facilitate the entrance of other teams. But it would certainly take a hit. Your next best league that you would go up against for that highest ranked group of 5 conference champion is the Sun Belt or Conference USA. Well, Conference USA was recently gutted by the American, so it's a little bit weaker. Liberty got the bid over SMU this year. Not everybody agreed with that move. But if you take the best teams out of the American and the best teams out of the Mountain West, you're just removing the competition. And you're saying, well, our conference champion is going to be higher rated than their conference champion. So, there was a point of irony that I just have to bring up because Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, said, we need to go to a 5+7 model. It's the right thing to do in relation to Kirk Schultz holding this up. The right thing to do? The right thing to do? Are we going to talk about the right thing to do in college sports, Jim? Jim. Tony Romo. But I look at the way this is playing out. The stars are aligning for this to all make sense. Now, the roadblock that Kirk Schultz and company might run into is if they go to the CFP committee and say, we want the Pac-12 to continue to be viewed as a Power 5 league, and their plans, which, their best plan would be, of course, to rebuild it with primarily group of 5 teams, that might not fly. Because SMU currently, BYU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati caught a break getting to the Big 12 a year before a team like SMU made the jump because the College Football Playoff Committee is not keen on doling out money at Power 5 revenue shares. Because SMU has reached a compromise and they're going to get like half of a deal or part of a share, but not a full share. If you have, let's say, 8 new teams to make a 10-team Pac-12 conference, 4 from the American, 4 from the Mountain West. If that transpires, what evidence do we have to think that the College Football Playoff Committee would give them full shares? Maybe they wouldn't need full shares. Maybe they wouldn't want that. But the deal that Schultz is trying to set up here would be nullified if the Pac-12 were to dissolve. But if it stays together, I have a hard time believing that a conference made up of 8 teams or more that were just at the group of 5 level are going to get the respect and financial backing that one team, SMU, is failing to get right now. So that's the only potential hiccup that I see in this particular plan for the Pac-12 to get back to where they want to be, or to get to where they want to be, not back to where they want to be. That's never going to happen, of course. But, Schultz's point is, we shouldn't be penalized just because, we're being left behind and we've got the history and proven we should be Power 5. I agree with that. But you can't make that same case for whatever schools you hypothetically add to your league one day. So I wonder how this all plays out. But Schultz is seen, as an interesting character in this whole sort of discussion and debate and ongoing conversations and whatnot. But he spoke about there being some actual goodwill amongst everybody that is involved, and that they've kind of understood, okay, he's just holding up this vote to go to 5+7 because he, wants to figure out the legal situation financially and get this deal and everything like that. But I think there's an understanding on both sides as well. That's the indications, and what the reporting on all this dictates is that they're starting to get a little antsy of like, okay, but now that we've got the deal here, we need to get this stuff set in stone and we need to finalize it. So let's go. I expect this to continue to get resolved. We'll, of course, continue covering it on the show. If you've got questions, drop them in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. Louisville, big win total, Take the over. Why? I'll tell you why.